I thought we had a good day. Really kind of the way our recruiting operation is built. We really don't want drama. So, for us, we want to build strong relationships with parents, with high school coaches, with prospects. Try to get them to jump on board early, and then not waver because they're very comfortable with their decision. For the most part, that's how things go for us. When you look nationally, how those things usually go and how it usually goes for us, we usually stick to that plan. We usually don't have a whole lot of drama. I think when you get older, you want to eliminate as much drama for your life as possible, and that's what we try to do even in recruiting. So we had a couple guys that had some questions, and some guys that needed a few more days or weeks to kind of make their decisions. We had a little bit of that, but not a whole lot. So I'm proud of that. I had a couple late night phone calls, but overall I thought we did a really good job. You look at our class, most people have it ranked, I think, top 10. If you look at it in terms of quality, I think we're the only program in the top 10 that has less than 20 commitments, which factors into it. So if you look at it from a quality standpoint, I think we're top 3 in the country in terms of the quality of how services have those guys ranked. So excited about that. I'm also proud of the fact that since we've arrived, we've been able to continue to broaden our reach. You think about Oregon, you think about Florida. It looks good today on paper, and I think it'll end up looking good on the field as well. I don't know if I necessarily felt that way when we were flying all over the country, multiple states per day. But at the end of the day, I thought our staff did a great job of identifying high character kids that want to come to a great institution like Penn State and compete in the classroom and compete on the football field and keep chipping away at where we're going. And that's kind of what I see. I keep seeing us take positive steps in the right direction and excuse me, and continue to surround ourselves with families and kids that want to be a part of doing something special. So that's exciting to me. And I love how the staff is going about doing it as well, doing it the right way. So open up the questions, but very pleased with how the day went. And then obviously, we still have another signing day left, so we'll have a little bit of wiggle room left. A couple guys that we've identified that we feel good about that just needed a little bit more time in their process for a variety of reasons. So open up the questions.
Raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you.
Hi James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. The dynamics of a 2-quarterback class and putting that together, convincing both players that it's the right situation for them. How did your staff go about that, and how would you describe those two guys that you brought into the position?
Well, I think the first thing is we started with that approach because we weren't sure about what Tommy was going to do. And then once we kind of committed to that, we stayed with it. We always want to have 5 quarterbacks on scholarship. That's going to allow us to do that. Obviously, in a perfect world, you'd love one spread out. One is a senior, one is a junior, one is a sophomore, one is a freshman. But there's not too many programs in the country that have it like that. But like we try to do with everything, we were just upfront and honest and transparent from the beginning with their families and with them. And Taekwon, never really seemed to faze him at any point. And really, Michael jumped on after the fact, and he already knew. So they both were great about it. And in fact, Coach Ronnie did a really good job. And 2 guys that really kind of fit our profile with kind of what we're looking for. I think they're excited about Penn State. Excuse me, guys, I got a little bit of a cold. So it just worked out really well. With Michael, I've known Michael's dad for 20 years. He was the quarterbacks coach with the Atlanta Falcons with Michael Vick, and I was offered the receiver's job. So we go way back. And then obviously having an opportunity to develop a relationship with his son and seeing what he was able to do. That was really good. And then the area of New Jersey where Taekwon's from, great football, very competitive. I look at that league in New Jersey very similar to the league in the Maryland, D.C. area. high-level football, coached really well, very competitive. Taekwon came to camp and, earned it the hard way. Came to camp, we loved how he threw the ball, came out of his hand, but he didn't run 40. And we said, hey, you need to come back. You need to come back and do all the testing. And he came back. And we offered him, and he didn't take much longer after that. He committed and, never changed. And I think that's the thing I'm really proud of is, you guys have heard me talk about this before, we don't pressure guys. In a lot of ways, we try to talk guys out of committing, are you sure you want to do this? Sure you want to do this? What if you get this offer next week? What if you get that offer? I'd rather you not commit than commit and change your mind later. Make sure the high school coach is okay with it. Make sure the parents are all okay with it. Everybody on the same page. You sure this is what you want to do? Once you shake my hand, we're engaged, and there's no more dating. There's no more flirting. Once you sign, we're married, and there's no divorce. I asked them what's their favorite NFL team. Okay, well, what if they want to draft you right out of high school? That's how strong I want you to feel about it. Or I'd rather you wait. It's funny because then some people say, well, shouldn't they have the right to go on 5 visits? Yeah. Don't commit. Go on 5 visits. So we just try to be very, very upfront and honest with them about the process and kind of what we're looking for. And what we also talk about is that commitment and that loyalty is a two-way street. They're committed to us and we're committed to them. So, I feel really good about how the whole thing has played out. And those two guys have been great. This isn't like the old days where, there was no scholarship limits and you'd show up and there was 6 quarterbacks in the recruiting class, and nobody had internet. You just kind of showed up, and that's what it was before the scholarship limits. You hear some of those nightmare stories, being the 9th quarterback at school Y. Everybody kind of knows, and I think it's really good because guys can make really positive, informed decisions that are going to allow them to go on and be very successful.
James, you had some staff turnover earlier in the process. What have you seen from the new guys on the trail in terms of fitting in with the way that you guys recruit, and specifically Jaywan Sider and the job that he's been able to do in Florida?
Yeah, Jaywan's been a great hire. What I love about Jaywan is Jaywan's the type of guys that I want to surround myself with in terms of all that really Jaywan is interested in is his family and football, and he lives it. It's talking football with Coach Ronnie, or his phone is ringing and it's a high school coach, or it's a player, or it's a contact. It's all the time. We're on vacation and it's constant, back and forth. We're back and forth to each other about a play we saw, a scheme, that we're interested in, or a prospect that's out there. It's really important to him. I know he's really happy, being at Penn State and with the climate and the culture that we have. Obviously his son's joining the program, which is a good sign as well. But he's just done a really good job. Tyler Bowen, it's obviously a little bit different for him because this is what he knows. Our model. Tyler played for me at Maryland and then was a GA for me when I was the offensive coordinator, and then obviously was a GA. Was a student assistant for us when I was the offensive coordinator, and then was a GA for us here, and then obviously went to Fordham and then came back after going to the University of Maryland as the offensive line coach. So he kind of gets how we do things. So that transition was really easy for him. And then David coming from Army, obviously you could imagine this is very different, than Army. So been a little bit of an adjustment there, but overall, I think we got a really strong foundation of kind of how we do things. We got a lot of moving parts, but we got a lot of personalities and people that have been with us for a large number of years. So we're typically able to handle some of those things. Obviously, I don't want turnover. I want to try to keep as much consistency here as we possibly can. But I think those guys did a really good job, and Andy Frank and the whole recruiting department helps with that as well. So when these guys show up and we try to figure out what their recruiting area is going to be, Because that's the other thing. It's not like when you lose a coach that next coach you come in and you just plug and play. It doesn't work like that, because you want to make sure you're taking advantage of everybody's strengths. And if you hire Jaywan Sider and he's replacing a coach, well, you're not just going to put him in that same recruiting area. You want to play to Jaywan's strengths as much as you possibly can. So, excuse me, it forces us in some ways to adjust the entire staff. So the entire staff is impacted in recruiting when you lose one guy, and that's why it's so impactful. But I also think that's also why we do it the way we do it. Where I've been on staffs where one coach recruits one area and one position, and that coach is really the only coach on the staff that has a relationship with that young man and their family. So then he leaves, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And for us, I want it to feel like for each recruit and each family that we're dealing with is they're not really completely sure who their recruiter is, because everybody's involved. The head coach is involved, the coordinator's involved, the area recruiter's involved, the position coach is involved. So now when you do have turnover, we do it because I think that's the best way to be thorough and detailed, like we do with everything. But I also think there's an aspect that allows you to overcome some turnover too.
Hey James, you guys have been very successful at recruiting the running back position over the last few years. I think on Twitter there's been a number of people using the hashtag RBU. And I'm just curious, how and why did that come to fruition, and how much of a factor do you think Saquon Barkley was in kind of getting you maybe to this point?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that factors in. I mean, obviously we were able to get Saquon before we had Saquon, so that was an important step. But I do think once you have a guy like Saquon that's such an exciting player to watch, was just named Rookie of the Year in the NFL. Do you guys know that? No, it hasn't happened yet, but I think he is. So I've just kind of made that decision with all of the juice that I have in the NFL. But when you got a guy like that plays such an exciting style of football, and then obviously carries himself so well too, that you have players all over the country, 8th, 9th, 10th graders watching him play. And you look at Penn State football and you see the colors and the uniform and the exciting style. We play in the Rose Bowl and he's got that run where he made 17 people miss, and it's a signature run. I do think that has an impact, because players sit there and they try to envision themselves doing something similar. So I think whenever you have exciting players like that, it can make a huge impact. Now, one of the questions I got earlier is, now are you out there looking for the next Saquon Barkley? No, I think that's a huge mistake that people make. No different in hiring. You lose a coach and you go try to hire, someone that you think is just like the other guy. You're not doing that. That's not how it works. Now, there's traits and there's skills and there's things that you're looking for. But yeah, I think we've had success. I think it's because if you look at how we play in the style and Saquon. One of the things that I think I was talking earlier about that I don't know has been talked about a whole lot is this year. I think if you look at us statistically, we lose Saquon Barkley, and we rush for more yards this year, and I think we rush for more yards per carry. And that's something that hasn't really been talked about, with our offense. I think that's a pretty strong example of our commitment to running the ball. Now, obviously, we didn't throw the ball as well this year, so we need to be more consistent. But when you're able to do both of them, we've already shown that we can throw the ball. We've led the Big Ten in 2 of the last 3 years. We wanted to make a commitment of running the ball better this year. And it's going to be scary when we were able to do both. Do both at a very high level. So I think it's all those things. And they also see Saquon and other backs and Miles, who we couldn't be more excited about. About him in this bowl game and his future moving forward too. That we use our backs in a lot of different ways, as runners on the inside, on the perimeter. Pass protection, and then obviously trying to get them involved in the passing game too. So And I think there's all those factors that go into it, and I think Miles is a really good extension of that.
Right.
Congrats on the class, James.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You added 2 pretty good junior college prospects, Wigan and Brisker. How important was it to get them in this class? And then also, what's the realistic expectations? I think fans always expect them to play right away.
Yeah, you know, I think Lackawanna is a huge, you know, opportunity for us, you know, in this state. So, you know, Coach Duda's done a tremendous job. Obviously, being able to get 2 players from our state to stay home that are a little bit more mature. You know, they won the national championship this year, went 11-0, first time in school history. I think Brisker was named first team All-American. You know, what's great is Wigan is graduating early. Wigan is graduating early and going to be here on campus, which is great because he's a skinny 300 pounds and, you know, played extremely well this year. So I think that's really important. You know, I think that the challenges with junior college players is, you know, do they graduate early or not? You know, with Wigan, I think that's gonna you know, really help him out. And then, like I always talk about, you know, Brisker, the fact that he plays away from the ball, I think that helps. I think that helps when you're an offensive lineman, kind of getting coordinated, you know, with the other offensive linemen and the tight ends, and then also just the complexity of the schemes and the combination of blocks and communication that occurs at the line of scrimmage. That takes some time. I think Brisker's a pretty skilled guy, and you know, he's going to have an opportunity to come in and compete, you know, for a safety job. So, you know, we'd like to be able to, you know, to be able to sign multiple players every single year out of there. If it makes sense for us, it makes sense for them. But that's something, you know, that I think Coach Duda does a tremendous job. Him and Coach Pardini and the rest of the staff up there, they do a really good job.
James, going back to the running backs, can you kind of take me through the moment with Noah Kane? I mean, I'm assuming you're watching that unfold probably like everybody else was. And how did you guys kind of develop that relationship with them?
Well, for the first thing I would say is you know, very rarely in my time doing this, the guys announce and no one knows. You know, it happens every once in a while. Most of the time that you know. A lot of the exciting things that were going on today, we knew. You know, both good and bad. We knew several weeks ago. Sometimes several days ago. It depends on the situation. But Noah committed to us, you know, a few weeks ago. Felt pretty confident about that until last night. I get a call at 12:05, and it's Noah, mom, and dad, and they want to have a discussion. And the discussion is coming off like they have not made their decision yet. You know, so there I am in my boxers, having a heated discussion and selling on why this makes sense. Same thing with Coach Sider, and then again this morning. But you know, and I think that happens. This is a big decision guys are making, and I think when you wait to the end, you start getting pulled in 1,000 different directions. So we get that, but you know, he stuck with what he was saying. He had some, you know, questions there at the end, but we were pretty confident. And then, you know, the same deal is, you know, most times guys have already sent the paperwork in when they're even making announcements. It's already been in at 7 o'clock. I think we had all of ours in by 8:37 this morning. The one we were waiting on was Noah. I mean, even when he announced, even after he announced, I was like, hey, get the paperwork in, get the paperwork in. But you know, it worked out really well. I think we got 2 really good backs that are both really mature. One will be coming in early, and one will be coming in this summer. You know, highly productive guys. Both of them. You know, if you combine their stats, it's ridiculous. You know, you look at Noah, what he's been able to do. You know, obviously at IMG as well as, you know, high school before that. It's impressive. You know, it's impressive. So, you know, we're pretty fortunate. Devin's had over 100 touchdowns in high school. So, you know, we're fortunate to get 2 really good backs coming in here that are also highly competitive guys and both very mature.
Great.
Hey James, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Sorry, I apologize, I keep coughing. This weather towards the end of the year, as you guys know, we got rain every single week and cold, and my head isn't really built for that. So all over the country in flights, I got pneumonia. So I'm still kind of getting over that. So I apologize. Yes, sir.
Is there anything you're waiting on with the next couple of days in the early signing period, or are you completely done at this point as far as?
No, we still got some. We got a little wiggle room left.
Okay.
Yeah, some guys that we're gonna hopefully sign with the next signing period, and some guys that we have a lot of confidence in, and some guys that we have medium confidence in, and some guys we're still trying to kind of figure it out.
And then with John Dunmore, can you walk us through his recruitment from start to finish and what it means to add a talent like him into your receivers room?
Yeah, I think, whenever you're able to go into an area like Florida and start to get some guys, it's going to open up some opportunities for you, because there's just so many Division I players, in that state. But John was great. John came on a visit. John came on a visit with his mom and his little brother, and loved it. And we were downtown, I think at Tap House, is that what it's called? Huh?
Federal Tap
House. We were down at Federal Tap House, and I went to the bathroom, he went to the bathroom, and we're coming out of the bathroom, he's like, I'm coming here. And I'm like, you really coming here, or you just, he goes, no, I'm coming here. Like, got emotional, and went back and talked to mom and little brother. And little brother, he's kind of like, for some reason, we have a thing with, like, we usually kind of get in really good with the little brothers, and they're usually like kind of our ace in all, they're behind the scenes kind of working for us. It was the same way with Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith's little brother had committed to us long before Brandon did. And, he told us he was coming, had been committed for a long time, and then, publicly came out and did it. And then, obviously in the 11th hour, people start, coming after him. And obviously local schools, and, I think, the specific local school, I think, had 3 commitments from his high school. So it got interesting. But, we had a really strong relationship with mom, a really strong relationship with Uncle Todd, had a really strong relationship with the little brother. Excuse me. And really JD, never wavered with us. Obviously he wanted to go on the visit, and that's always a little concerning, especially a place that has palm trees and sand. But he was great. He was great. And you look at how his senior year progressed, and then you look at how the end of his senior year progressed and how many plays he made. Winning the state championship, all those types of things. So really good. So hopefully we can build on that, and J1 and John can kind of be the Pied Pipers together, and really open up some more doors for us down there.
John?
James, with Ellis Brooks 2 years ago, Micah and Jesse last year, now Brandon and Lance, how effective do you think you guys are at attacking recruiting linebacker, and what do you like about Brandon and Lance in particular?
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting into a rhythm now. I think we really understand Penn State much better. I think our institutional knowledge is much better. Our community knowledge is much better. Also recruiting areas and places that we're going to have the most success. You look at Lance. Lance is an interesting one. Lance came to camp, very early on, ran 4.4 for us in camp. We offered, kind of fell in love. That's not a short trip. I think they came up here 7 times, on their own. We created a really strong relationship with mom and dad, Rosie and LeBaron, and mom was the one kind of at the end that before he committed, that was concerned about the distance a little bit, but he kind of never flinched. What's interesting with Brandon is we were one of the few schools in the country. He came up, he had a bunch of offers, and he came up. His dad tells this story. It's interesting. They came up here and we didn't offer. And he had offers from everybody. And a lot of times when you do that, guys leave and they feel slighted. And for whatever reason, that was something that they really liked. That we weren't just going to throw an offer out. We wanted to know the family. We probably take a different approach to a lot of people. When we offer, it's serious. If we offer you and you commit, that very second we offer you, we should be doing backflips. And we didn't offer and they left and just built a really strong relationship with his family. He's got an unbelievable support system. And really, we built really strong relationships with all of them. Because this wasn't a decision that Brandon was making. You talk about being raised by a village, that's Brandon. Mom, dad, crazy Uncle JJ, the whole crew. And those two guys, we think have a chance to come in, and they're both graduating early, they're both gonna be here. That room has gotten competitive real quick. Really competitive. It's obviously been competitive since we've been here, but I'm talking about a whole nother level. And those guys coming in December is really gonna help some things. So this is to me, this is what makes it so fun. We don't really want the guys that say, well, how many linebackers you got, or how many quarterbacks you got, or how many receivers you got. I understand that that's a factor in it, but we want guys that want to come in and compete against the very best at the highest level. And I tell guys all the time, just so you know, I'm going to go out and recruit a linebacker next year to beat you out, and you're going to be crazy enough to help us recruit him. And that's kind of what we want to kind of create, that type of mentality. And we're starting to get that where, if you start here, you've earned it. It's a battle to do that. And that wasn't always the case, obviously, when we first got here.
Coach, you mentioned how important the lines are in success of the program. How does Salim Wormley fit into that? What do you like about him?
Yeah, I'm a huge Salim Wormley fan. He's always got a huge smile on his face. Very, very physical. It was interesting, kind of throughout the year, I was kind of playing those guys against each other. So Wiggin and Caden and Sal, each week, I asked them each week to send me their highlight tape at the end of the game. I'm like, ooh, Sal, I don't know. Caden had, he had 11 pancake blocks this week, and you only had 7. And the next week, Sal would have 11, and then Caden would call him and kind of go back and forth with those guys. Because I think that's the hardest thing to find, especially on the O-line, is big, physical, athletic guys that will be tough and will play with a nasty streak. It is hard to find. So part of it is starting to kind of train that mentality now. Sal's a guy that carries 300 pounds very easy. He's really thin in the upper body. I think he's going to have a chance to really develop. He got a chance to be a road grader guard. With really long arms. That's something that we spend a lot of time on is arm length with the offensive line position, and he has that. All these guys have really long arms.
For James.
Time for 2 more. We'll start with Ben.
Grant and John are good examples of guys that are not necessarily tall but are great in coverage. You were pretty short last year in that area. All 5 of these guys are over 6 feet. Is that what the field gave you? Was that what you were looking for? And when you look at a guy like Keaton Ellis that can mitts before his senior season and then is pretty dynamic on the offensive side of the ball, does that kind of throw an athlete tag on him a little bit more than a corner, or are you set as much as anyone set on signing day with him on the defense?
Yeah, good questions. Coach probably would not be happy with you right now, or Terry. The first thing I'll say is the guys that we're recruiting really should be dominant on both sides of the ball in high school. You should. You think about Michael Mennett. Michael Mennett's high school film on defense line is pretty darn good. So that's how it should be. But yeah, Keaton had an unbelievable year. Came to our camp, really ran well, ran high 4.3, low 4.4. But then got a little sick and missed the camp circuit, so didn't get kind of all the attention that he probably deserved. Kept getting taller, kept getting thicker, and then had an unbelievable, senior year. And then it's funny, like you're saying, every time he comes to the building, the offensive coaches kind of start talking to him, and the defensive coaches get nervous, get away from him. But again, that's what we should have. We should have guys that create position flexibility, which I think is huge. you hear me talk about it all the time on the offensive line, but really I'm talking about, our receivers should have the mentality and the physicality to play defense. Our defensive back should have the ball skills to play wide receiver. So he's one of those guys. I think height, we're like everybody else in terms of we'd love to be as long as we possibly can be, across our defense and on our offense and specifically defensive backs. But as you guys know, and I've said this before, we're not going to pass on a really good player because he's 5'9", and there's a lot of programs that will do that. They are cookie cutter. You got to be at least 6 foot to play this position, 6'2" to play this position, and I don't believe that. We don't want a roster full of exceptions, but I think we're going to trust our evaluation and take those guys. I think your point is valid. You look at these guys that we were able to sign in this class. It just happens that our region was really strong. Keaton is a long corner, lives here right in town. I mean, literally his mom came over and she works on campus, so she was able to do the announcement this morning. Marquise from this region, Tyler Rudolph from this region, both of those guys came to camp. We fell in love with them at camp. They tested well, did unbelievable. And then Joey Porter. I mean, wait till you see Joey Porter. He's got the longest arms you'll ever see. Joey's kind of the interesting one because you just don't know. His dad, I think, played wide receiver, early in his college career, and then ends up being, one of the better 3-4 outside linebacker, defensive end type guys, to play in the NFL. A very successful NFL career. So you don't know, is he going to have a similar type of progression? Is he going to go from corner to safety outside linebacker? You never know. But we love all those guys at corner right now, but I do think a lot of these guys create some position flexibility with corner or safety, and we'll see how that plays out. Did I answer all your questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mike?
I got a pair of follow-ups. You mentioned family. It seems like a new trend where you're getting family members posing in uniforms. What's the genesis of that, and what do you think of that?
So the first thing I would say is I think it started at Florida. This went kind of viral on social media, so it's no different than anything else. One guy does it and somebody else wants to do it. And I don't ever like really kind of following other people's patterns. But at the end of the day, I will tell you, we had one guy on our staff was not happy about it. Came into my office and was like, this happened, blah, 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 like really angry. I'm like, just so you know, I have like 17 things on my list to be upset about it, and that's not one of them. If somebody wants to have fun and put a uniform on and take pictures, more power to them. I think it's awesome. If mom wants to put the uniform on, if dad wants to put the uniform on. The uniforms now are like spandex. I mean, they're so tight. I'm not putting that on. It's a bad look. But again, this process is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a game, and sometimes we take it way too serious. So if a guy wants to come up and put a full uniform on and take pictures with his son, or a mom wants to do that, or an aunt or a grandma, go at it. Let's do it. I'd like to see. I think that's something we ought to do. And when we do that summer, now we're talking. So when we do that summer picnic every year, that's what we need to do. We need to eat upstairs and talk and have pleasantries. And then we need to go down into the locker room. We'll do it just like we do for the recruits. Let you guys go in, try all the stuff on, and then bring you into the team meeting room and have a photo shoot. You in a 26 jersey, be very similar. Quads.
22, right?
No, you can't do 22, it's retired. 26, I'm talking about you. Your quads are very similar to another 26.
That's fun. You gave a lot of numbers. I saw a number the other day. You made 193 offers. Is that in the neighborhood? And how do you balance that versus you only have X number of spots? How do you do that?
I don't know what the number is. I'll believe the number you're throwing out there. I think our numbers from everything I've seen are much smaller than a lot of programs that we recruit against. I think it really just comes down to, say you're going to sign 2 quarterbacks. You're not going to offer 3 quarterbacks and get 2 because the people we're recruiting against are good. You know, they got really good history, they got really good traditions, they got great facilities, they got great fan base, you know, all those types of things. So it's hard. Our hit rate is pretty good, but you better give yourself enough options. And that's something that I think, you know, we got to continue to do a good job at. And I think some positions do it better than others, where sometimes I don't think our list is deep enough, because, okay, you may think you're getting these 2 guys, and if you don't, now what? You can't go now offer the next 2. It's not like you can say, you coming? No, and I'm gonna offer the next 2. It doesn't work like that, because it's just, you know, I wish it was that simple. So you gotta say, okay, who are the guys across the country that can get us better and have the grades and are a good fit for us? And then let's offer, and out of that group, whoever wants to come, it's first come, first serve. And that's how the scholarships are written. You know, they understand that. It's first come, first serve at that point.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Yeah, then I'm done.
That's it, you're done.